In defense of mountain dog training, look, this is impromptu, and they always are, aren't they? But this time, it really is completely impromptu. I was just about to head to the shower, and I thought to myself, shit, I need want to make a point here. Every week, Paul Carter posts something talking about how dumb this is or how dumb that is, right? And what I've noticed though is that the trend has consistently been the very same things that John Meadows would recommend. So, one of the dumbest things you can possibly do is, drop sets. Or, the dumbest thing you can possibly do is a finisher. Or, the dumbest thing you can possibly do is this type of intensifier. And I'm looking at these things, I'm like, these are the exact same things that were in all of John Meadows' programs that worked. I don't have any science for you sometimes. Like, this is just the reality of training. Let me tell you a quick story, and this will make sense why this matters. You guys go ahead and read something on calf training, right? And then, the most recent thing I saw was that, straight leg calf raises, that's the only way to do it. Never do seated calf raises. But you know what? I was listening to this bodybuilder talking about how he had small calves and he couldn't get his calves to look right on stage. And the advice that he was given was to do 7 sets to failure, which is amazing, of seated calf raises, 3 days on, 1 day off. And sure enough, when he started doing that, 3 days on, 1 day off, so 3 days of doing 7 sets to failure, that's brutal. And he says it's the first time in his entire life that his calves were actually sore from calf training. I believe that. I don't doubt that for a second. That sounds like a brutal protocol. And he says, but my calves finally started to look right. Now, you've read this shit out there, and you know that, well, straight leg trains both the gastroc and the soleus, and, supposedly, seated calf raises only train the soleus. But, something funny about bodybuilding is that sometimes you need to bring up a weak muscle group. And so, like, maybe you want to have a bicep peak rather than just having a bigger arm. Like, maybe you want the shape of the muscle to change, like it looks better. It's kind of like how, back squats. I can just keep back squatting forever. I love back squats, right? But, like, if you want that teardrop look, you have to do something to train the VMO. And if you want that rectus femoris to look a certain way, you have to do something like sissy squats or, reverse Nordics or something like that. And, if you want big adductors, back squats probably aren't the best way for you to have big adductors and big abductors. Like, you're going to need to do the adduction machine and the abductor machine, right? Because you want to get that quad sweep. So, like, I'm 100% a strength guy. I am not a bodybuilder. Not at all. I have no interest in bodybuilding other than the fact that I use bodybuilding methods when I need to make my athletes get bigger, right? I got a football player who needs to pack on size. We're going to do some hypertrophy work, bud. But here's the reality of the situation is that, yeah, bodybuilding actually is, quote, bodybuilding. Like, maybe you want more rear delt. Maybe you want more front delt. Maybe you want more of your upper chest to look a certain way, so you choose a certain movement. And so this is the part where I come back to sometimes science doesn't fucking matter. So yeah, science says that, straight leg calf raises are the best way to train your calves to get bigger calves. And it's like, yeah, but maybe your problem is that your calf doesn't look right on stage because the soleus is disproportionately small to the gastroc or something. So that individual needs to do seated calf raises because they're looking for an appearance. Like, that's what the goal is. They're looking for an appearance. Not to have the strongest calves ever. No one cares. Like, it wouldn't matter if Ronnie Coleman had a 500-pound back squat or a 1,000-pound back squat. What matters is what he looks like on stage. Like, that's the question. So if Ronnie has to bench press 800 pounds for a double and Jay Cutler can do 200 pounds for 10 and Jay gets a bigger chest, who wins on stage? The guy with the bigger chest. Like, it isn't about how much weight you lifted in the gym. And I'm just being as ridiculous as possible about these numbers. But, the point being, they get judged by what they look like on stage, not how much they lifted in the gym. Like, no one judges you based on how many calories you ate either. Like, no one looks at you and be like, well, he suffered more than you because he only ate 1,600 calories a day, but you're leaner than him. However, you were eating 4,000 calories a day, and so even though you look better and you're leaner, you didn't suffer as much as he did. Now, there's no trophy for suffering, okay? And here's the point that I want to make very succinct and very clear. As much as I love science, and I love science, I think science is great, I'm a nerd, I am going to be completely open and honest with you that when it comes to doing shit in the gym, it really doesn't fucking matter as long as you go hard. Train really fucking hard. And it doesn't matter if you're doing drop sets, it doesn't matter if you're doing intensifiers, it doesn't matter, oh, I'm doing effective reps. Effective reps is fucking bullshit. Tom Platz used to put 225 on the bar and just squat nonstop for 10 minutes. He'd set a timer and just squat nonstop for 10 minutes. How many effective reps is that? He's 4 away from failure. No, he's not 4 away from failure. He probably could have kept going for another 5 minutes. This is the thing. Sometimes it just comes down to training really fucking hard. That being said, okay, I am going to make a point to you, and I'm not recommending that you do this every time. Let's be really fucking clear about that. If you've never trained legs and squats, right? If you've never trained so hard that you threw up, you have no idea what it is to train hard. Now, I am not recommending you go in and throw up every time. I'm not recommending you go in and train to failure every time. But if you've never taken a set of squats to failure, then you don't know what failure feels like. And so I actually think there's a strange benefit in you going too hard, because now you find out where the limit is. So it's like, I did squats to failure. Now I know what it feels like to hit failure. So when I say that I'm stopping with 1 or 2 reps in reserve, I know that because I've trained to failure, so I know what it feels like when I'm getting close. I can do squats and say, no, I have 0 reps in reserve. I definitely will not make the next one. Why? Because I've done squats to failure, so now I know when that last one is super slow and grindy, and it barely came up, I know that the next one isn't going to happen. Similarly, because I've done things like training too hard and just puking my guts up, I know where the limit is. I know, hey, I don't need to train that hard every time. But once you do that a few times, now you know, hey, this is hard training, and I'm very close to that hard point that is kind of like a limit. So, like, it's not as simple as a speed limit, but like, it's like if you've never driven 65, like, you know, you don't know what it feels like to be at 64 or something. Like, it's not a perfect analogy. But like, for those of you who have done CrossFit, you've probably done a CrossFit workout where you went so hard that you threw up. So now you know what it feels like to go really fucking hard, okay? And you don't need to do that, and you probably shouldn't do that. No one should be training to the point where they throw up every fucking workout. But now you know where the threshold is. Now you know where the limit is. And I think that that's one of the biggest benefits of the Mountain Dog training, is doing those intensifiers and stuff like that. You learned to push. You learn to fight for that 1 more rep. Beginners don't need to worry about this. You're a beginner, your form breaks down long before you actually hit muscular failure. So like, if you're a beginner, like, just disregard everything I've said up to this point. I don't want you taking a set of squats to failure. Your form will fail before your muscles actually fail. But for those of you who are more advanced and you can hold a proper front squat even whenever your muscles are failing, you know, you can hold that position because you've practiced it a million times, you know what it feels like to push to failure. You don't have to push to failure. You can stop 1 or 2 reps short of failure. But because you've gone to failure, you know what that feels like. And because you've done things like training too hard where you throw up, you know where the threshold is. Like, okay, I'm right at the point where if I go any harder, I'm going to throw up. That's the point where you're like, okay, this is where I let my foot off the gas. I'm not saying you slam on the brake. You don't pull the e-brake. But it's like you're going really fucking hard and you're getting close to that point where you're going to throw up. And you're like, just take my foot off the gas and coast. That way you don't push into that area. So it's like coming as close to the limit as you can without actually hitting it. Yeah, you're coming as close to the limit as you can without actually hitting it. You know, you got a nice vase in your garage for some odd reason, and you pull your car in. You try to get as close to it as you possibly can without bumping it, because if you bump it, it might break. Yeah, like, you're just trying to get really close to the limit without actually hitting it. And so my defense of mountain dog training is that I think that these intensifiers are great. I think drop sets are great. There's even research out there suggesting that drop sets are great. I think that intensity matters. Like watch that video of Tom Platz and John Meadows training together. Are they doing effective reps? Is there only 4 reps left in the tank? What are they doing? They're pushing as hard as they possibly fucking can. There's nothing left at the end. And I don't really care. Like, oh, here's another thing about this whole effective reps thing. Supposedly we should be doing all these sets of 6, right? And sets of 6 that are within 1 or 2 reps of being close to failure. Give me a 6 rep max preacher curl. Like, there are just certain movements that doesn't work for lateral raises. Like, you're gonna do a 6 rep max lateral raise. Like, that's just not gonna fucking happen. It's kind of like even with calves. Like calves, like you're not gonna do a 5 rep max calf raise. You're gonna take something lighter and do like 30 fucking reps, but you're gonna push it to the point where you can't get another one because you're like the muscle is just screaming at you, please stop. That's how you train. You can't, like, yes, you can easily apply a 6 rep max to a bench press or a squat or whatever. You can't apply a 6 rep max to a fucking preacher curl. Like, do a 6 rep max skull crusher. Your dentist will really appreciate that. You're gonna send their kids to college. This is the thing, guys. Like, you have to just train fucking hard. So, as much as Paul likes to attack John Meadows literally every single week and talk about how this thing is dumb and that thing is dumb and this intensifier is dumb, and I disagree. I think John Meadows was right about most things, and I think that intensity matters. I think it matters immensely. And sure, yeah, a bunch of studies on untrained college males say that it doesn't matter, but when you're pushing that limit and you've been training for 20 fucking years, yeah, you're going to need intensifiers. You're going to need those things. It's a different game. And no one's doing studies on 40-year-old men trying to put on 1 more pound of muscle whenever they're already at a limit. So, anyways, that's it. That's my defense of mountain dog training. I think it's awesome. I don't understand when people attack it. It's like people who attack, DC training. Like, no, this shit actually works. It hurts. That's why you don't want to do it. You're looking for an easier way. But this shit hurts, and that's why it works.